It's been an age-old conversation. Like, do you sit your starters and let them sit and watch football for 3 weeks, or do you keep them on fire? Do you keep them in the groove and keep them playing so that way they go into the playoffs hot? Last year, the Chargers head coach, whoever that was, made a decision that he wanted to stay hot and he wanted to keep the momentum rolling into the playoffs, and we saw what happened. In my personal opinion, every single time, these guys are fucking professionals. You keep them healthy. You rest them. You don't put them out there and risk it if it's unnecessary. But what do you think, Tony?
So I heard some interesting stats that like teams that rest their players going in have a really shitty record, and then teams that just allow their players to go out and play a couple of series or a quarter, that their success rate is much higher. I wish I would have remembered the stat or done actual research. That's not how I live my life. But I'll tell you this, playing them, the numbers are better going into the next week. The thing that I do remember, Eric Mangini making a very compelling point. He said it's not as much that you want to, what you don't want to lose is the attention of the players. Because what happens is in a situation like with the 49ers or the Ravens or whatever, is that if you tell them like, hey, these 5 or 6 guys, you're not really playing this week, you lose a full week of practice with them because then you have the bye week too. So like you lose their attention and focus for like a 2.5 week period. And he's like, that's really hard to get guys to get locked back in and focused and everything. He said one of the things that Bill used to do was, hey guys, we are playing this game to win. Everybody's suited and ready to go. He'd get out there and he'd let them play a series and he'd be like, Brady, Vrabel, Brewski, all these guys, he'd be like, you're out. Like, you're not, whoever he had on those early Patriots teams were like, no mas. He'd take out like 8 guys and backups would run the rest of the way. The problem with that scenario is he said that you start playing guys that are normally like key special teamers, they start getting more, then all of a sudden if they get banged up, now you go into the playoffs trying to figure out holes on the special teams. So it's like, what's the right answer? I lean towards caution no matter what. You're a fucking professional. You keep your ass locked in. You be at every practice no matter what happens here. But I understand both sides. I would rest my 5 of my like have to have them guys.
And I think especially with the Ravens and the 49ers, like you got experienced players on those teams. I mean, the Ravens are a little bit younger. These guys have been to the playoffs year after year. Like they're ready to go. What do you think about this, Joe?
Well, I think injuries are going to happen no matter what. If you're in practice, in a game, it could happen. They could walk down the street and twist their ankle. It could happen. So if you're playing because you don't want injuries to happen, I think that's a bad excuse. But if you're playing just to get them like a mental break, a mental rest, like maybe if the guy is banged up, like if like Brock Purdy this week, he has that stinger issue. Okay, sit him for a week. Maybe that stinger issue gets it. But if he's 100% healthy and there's no reason for him not to play, I'm sitting him out. I'm sitting him out there. That's me personally. But if there's any kind of injury out there, and maybe not the whole game, Tony. Maybe we see how it goes after the first quarter or something like that. But I'm sending them out there, getting them going, getting some reps just to do it and keeping that rhythm going. And that's just me personally. But if there's any excuse that I could use to keep them out, any injury, because at the end of the day, too, I don't know. Teams don't have to think about this. Coaches don't have to think about this. But us as fans, I think about it. I'm paying the same amount that somebody paid for week 1 to go watch this goddamn game. I want to see the starters out there. Just like I want to see the best players out there when I go to the game this weekend. And if they're only out there for a quarter, okay, they're only out there for a quarter, and that's what I got. But I want to see some of the best players out there whenever I can. And the NFL wants to put the best product out there every time they can.
So one of the things whenever you hear athletes talk about, and I think every amateur athlete can also relate to this, nobody's 100% healthy at the end of any season, no matter what level you're at, right? I can go back to playing tennis and having like extreme pain in like arm serving, whatever it was, and like horrible blisters on my feet from playing tennis for like 8 to 10 hours a day. Like hockey, end of the season, been hitting the kidneys, urinating blood. It's like, you're not doing fucking great at the end of any long athletic endeavor of whatever it is that you're doing. So like, I am not taking the risk. And yes, you use this. You're like, you could step up a curb and twist your ankle. I think it's a lot more common that a 25-year-old guy gets his shit kicked out of him on an NFL football field than Brock Purdy, who's been using his feet for 25 years, steps off wrong on a curb. Like that's shitty bad luck or whatever. I think you have to, no matter what increases your chances of winning in my mind is having availability. That is number one to me. So I'm not playing these guys, even if they're quote unquote 100% healthy, which nobody is. I'm leaving him out of the game. My quarterback, receiver, defensive guy, like, bro, you can't. Bosa, you ain't playing. Sorry. If you got incentives or want a chance for defensive player of the year, it ain't happening, bro. You're not playing.
Yeah, and it feels like the 2-1 seeds this year are teams that may have won other Super Bowls if they just stayed healthy in other years. So, like, they have recent experience of how easily this whole thing could be taken away and this whole season could be flushed down the drain. Now, knock on wood, we don't want to see it. At very minimum, please play callers this week. If you're
Lamar
not playing,
already locked up MVP, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Like, you go back to back
game
had in holiday season, like, that was the perfect showcase for him. Hey, San Francisco is the best team in the league. No, bro. You forgot about me. You forgot about Lamar. Oh, well, the Dolphins are good. No, they're not. Like, Lamar just went back to back, like, upside the head of two teams, and Christian McCaffrey's cooled off, Tyreek Hill's cooled off, Brock Purdy cooled off. Like, everybody you could have made an argument for cooled off, and Lamar got hotter. Like, it's locked up. Huntley can play.